can still qualify for a workout, okay? Any questions on that concept? Okay. The partial claim, as was already discussed, is basically HUD bringing the loan current, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, and then attaching a lien to the property in the amount that they paid to bring the property current, or bring the loan current. It's non-interest bearing. They can do this up to 12 monthly payments. So if there are only 6 payments past due, enter into a partial claim. If they fall behind again, they still have up to 6 monthly payments for a total of 12 for the life of the loan that can be considered. When you're talking loss mitigation redefaults from a loss mitigation standard or from an FHA perspective, the reason for default does need to be different. If the borrower lost overtime and got a partial claim for 4 months, and then several years later said that they fell behind again because their overtime was cut, reasons for default are the same, so they're probably not going to be approved for that second partial claim. But if they're different, they probably would. Okay? The interest-free note is tracked by a company called First Madison. They're a vendor that work for HUD. And as we said before, the partial claim is for use when either the loan is not at least 12 months old or there's a cloud on title. And I do quickly want to look at this partial claim example because, again, there's an interesting part of this. The borrower completed a loss mitigation application and had minimal surplus funds. The loan was due for 6 monthly payments, and you can see the principal balance and monthly payment amount there. The loan was originated only 6 months prior to the application date. So what does that mean? Never made one payment. In the servicing industry, this is called a first payment default. There is nothing, though. I've actually had some counselors almost upset that this borrower was allowed to have an option, a workout option. But the reality is there's nothing in the guideline that says a first payment default cannot have a workout. I mean, they had surplus funds monthly to afford the future payments. The reason for default was verifiable, et cetera, et cetera. So there was no reason to not approve it. So the partial claim was approved for $4,080 to bring the loan current. So,
When we had trading from HUD told us that they would pay for the principal and interest on the loan, but not the taxes, the escrow. You guys hear the escrow.
they do pay for the escrow. I just actually co-taught a loss mitigation training class with HUD, and it was in their material that it's taxes and insurance too. One thing about the HUD training is that most of the time the people facilitating the material aren't loss mitigators. They might know the material, they might have presented it, but they might not have a lot of hands-on experience with loss mitigation. But yeah, I mean, I just kind of co-taught a session. And
okay, will they take in for the late fees that have been assessed?
almost always the borrower needs to come to the table with the late charges and attorney's fees and costs. Mm-hmm.
It's my understanding that the partial claim, the homeowner has to be at least 4 months delinquent. Is that correct?
Yeah, actually a nuance of FHA loans. A lot of times when I'm out in the community, I'll hear, I tried to call such and such servicer and they told me they couldn't help the borrower until they were 3 months past due or what have you. And I'll usually follow that up by saying, was it an FHA loan? Yeah, it was. I can't say that I have a really good explanation for why the guideline is written this way, but it is a fact that we'll look at it a little bit in a few minutes here, that in the FHA guidelines, they will not consider, for example, a modification until the borrower's 3 payments past due, or a partial claim until they're 4 payments past due. They look to collection measures to try to cure the default before that. The obvious sticking point with that is if I'm a borrower and I miss 1 payment because of something, something happened, I needed snow tires or something like that, but then I'm fine. I pick up the next month and continue to make my payment, but I'm perpetually that 1 payment past due. Well, if I do the right thing, I'm going to make my monthly payment, but I'm never going to get to the default phase that would allow a modification or a partial claim to help me. So as a servicer, we're in kind of a weird situation because we don't want to tell a person to stop making payments, some servicers will say escrow your payments